Hello, hello. We are back again. We did miss last Wednesday, though.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, we'll make up for it. Maybe we'll do two this week.
That's a good idea.
I don't know. We'll see. We got a busy week. We also have an amazing guest today. So joining us today, we have author, podcaster, and medium Barbara Delong, and I cannot wait to ask her. I have a million questions all day long running through my head, and I can't wait. So
Yeah,
without further
we get
ado, let's just bring
we
her
get.
on.
All right, sounds good.
There she is.
Here I am.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. This is exciting. I really I get a kick out of actually being the one that's getting interviewed because there is no longer any prep because of course I know me better than anybody else does. So let it rip.
Then we could just jump right into it. So, one of the things that I have spent some time doing is looking through the book that you have co authored before Roswell.
Hmm.
And that one, let me, if I can just pull it up real quick, I'm going to share this.
Good to see you, Barbara.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to see her struggling with good. I'm just learning how to use StreamYard, so I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I know where this button is. So how is she finding this graphic?
So, this is the book that you co authored, and
Yes, with
I have been lost in it uh,
yeah,
a lot today. And first of all, can we also thank Mark Eddy for introducing us? Because
absolutely.
I feel like that is something that he is also, like you said, remarkable talent for connecting people.
He does have
And
that great gift, absolutely.
he
And
absolutely
I
does.
don't know of anybody that met him that did not fall in love with him.
Yeah,
Immediately, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
He's hard not to love.
Yeah, don't
So
tell him that though.
your interests vary between UFO phenomenon and consciousness, and you're also able to channel.
Oh yeah. Um well, the UFO stuff came with my late husband Patrick Cook. I mean, I did see one, it landed on my campus and it changed my life forever. But the UFO material that is on my website, and there's more on my website than is in that book because I took it all the way up to the year 2000. And when Ken Godsword called me and said he was writing a book on before Roswell, and he found that I had all the research that he needed, and he asked if he could use it, and I said absolutely, go for it. And he called me back a couple days later and said, "You want to co-write it with me?" Now, knowing that it was all written already, I figured this is a piece of cake. And and he gathered the material into different sections, and after each section we each wrote a little something, and then he wrote the summation and I wrote the conclusion, and yeah, and he published it, and I thought, oh, this is cool, and it was all Patrick's research, so that neither of us had to look in. I think we each kind of added maybe one little thing, but that was it. Patrick did all the work, and in essence, he should have been a co-author, but he's dead, so I didn't think he'd care.
Probably he probably doesn't.
Nah.
Um, but what that so that might answer one of the questions that I had was how did he, or I thought it was you guys, decide what specific like witness experiences that you would include in that, given that there are just thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands over the centuries of these sightings.
Well, Patrick did all the work. He did all the gathering, and they're on my website, and the situations, the different occurrences are the ones that he put together, and he put them together up to the year 2000. So I have no idea what he would think about what's going on now. He probably would be storming around looking for a mountaintop to sit on and just watch the show. Um, he did a great job, and the more I read the book, the more intrigued I am by it. And my favorite piece of trivia for it is: do you know who shot the first UFO down?
Oh, so you know what? That was in 1908, right?
I'm not sure when it was, but it was the Red Baron.
It's a Red Baron.
Really?
Okay,
The
it
the
was.
real the real Red Baron was the first to shoot a UFO down, and it was not a big deal. He shot it down. It went down in flames, landed near a forest, and the pilot got out and ran into the woods. And
And
it was
two of
not
them. There were two. That's what in the book said. There were two bald uh men, small men, that ran out and ran into the woods and were never seen. They were never seen again.
yep,
Hmm.
I'm trying to find that one because
yeah,
that
Yeah.
one, that one. Do you remember what year that was?
no. All I
Well,
remember is everybody I asked, do you know who the first one was? It will become a trivia question someplace someday. But and it was not made a big deal that it was a UFO. It was something flying in the sky he didn't recognize, so he shot it down. And it was not part of his, meritorious service to the Reich or whatever. But it
He
was,
thought it was an enemy craft,
yeah,
is what Patrick stated in here. I was looking for it. He thought
yeah,
that it was an enemy craft and he shot it down. And then he said later, over the years that all of these stories that would come out and the description of the craft was the exact same. And he realized then he didn't know then what he had shot down, but he realized that he had shot down a UFO
yeah.
and he didn't know.
I think I tell people this is a great bathroom book. It's, you can pick it up and
Here
set
it
it
is
down
right
and
here.
pick it up and set it down and pick it up and set it down. So it's a charming book. It's a delightful book to read. There are incidences that are so strange, they're just unbelievable, and all of them are published. So it's it's not that this is somebody said to somebody to somebody to somebody. All of the stuff in the book are actual published articles that appeared in newspapers.
So it says right here, he assumed the glittering silver spaceship was some sort of enemy invention until the flying saucer scare that began in the late 1940s convinced him that his buddy had shot down a UFO. The thing was maybe 40 meters in diameter and looked just like those saucer-shaped spaceships that everyone's been seeing for the last 50 years. So there's no doubt in my mind that that was no US reconnaissance plane the Barons shot down. That was some sort of spacecraft from another planet. And those little guys who ran off into the woods weren't Americans. They were
No,
space aliens of some kind.
right?
And that was in 1917.
Okay.
So the Wright brothers actually developed the first airplane in 1903.
Hmm.
And so when we go all the way back through this, which goes on and on and on, like you said, like I could just do this for days. Then we've got this, here we go, 1897, all of these sightings in 1897, everywhere, all over the US. I know I'm going so fast here.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. But then it just keeps going and I can just keep scrolling all the way down. And if I do that, we end up way down here, way down here.
Yep.
This is where we end up, is way down here. I didn't make it this far, but this blows my mind. And then here we go, the Book of Enoch. Where is it?
well, we got Enoch flying in space. We got, I mean, come on,
Wheels
Danny.
within the wheels, Ezekiel's wheels in the wheels.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's, it's nothing but space travel. The Book of Enoch is a pain in the ass for no wonder that the Somalis still have it in the book. in the
Hmm.
Gospels, but it's the only one. The Catholic Church took it out. Everyone took it out,
Well,
and
the Vedas have them in their literature, and you have the cave paintings in France back 25,000 years ago.
Hmm.
I mean, they've been around a while. And my theory is that actually they aren't the aliens. They were here before us, so we're the aliens.
Hmm.
mm, not a bad
So,
theory.
I
Which
think we,
which kind of goes along with Jared, the title of your book. It's not
It's
aliens,
not.
it's us. So it's just a
Yeah.
little role reversal. But I agree. And in Barbara, in your book Beyond Before Roswell, it talks about um, these creatures and these things happening way before it was possible for there to be any machine flying at those speeds, at those altitudes, at those heights.
well, I think
And
the other thing that is so important to really remember is prior to 1947, sightings were just casual. I was out tending the cows and this thing went overhead and I saw it and it was weird and I just went on tending the cows. After 1947, it became a horror story, and you have the movie industry making a big thing about aliens eating us and picking us up and operating on us and taking us to a planet and eating us. I mean, it was it a Twilight Zone to serve humanity? Um,
Oh.
I don't know if you saw that particular episode, but a spaceship landed and the space alien came out and he wanted to serve humanity. He wanted to give us um, cures for cancer and help us with all sorts of stuff. And he had this book that he carried with him at all times. And at one point, after a year or so of helping humanity to a great degree, he said, "Well, if you'd like to come and visit my planet, we'd be happy to take you, but you have to put on a lot of weight because space travel is hard on the body." And so everybody gained weight and they stood in line. They tried to they shoved people aside and everything to get on the spaceship to go see this person's planet. And this one man, his wife or girlfriend, I can't remember which, was going to go. She gained the weight and she was so excited she had a passport to go. And he kept saying to her, "Don't go, I have a bad feeling. Don't go, I have a bad feeling." And they finally deciphered um, the title of the book. It was To Serve Man, but it was a cookbook.
oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a great one. I really,
great.
it's my favorite, one of my favorites.
Have you made any connections between the UFOs? And you mentioned this. For those of you that don't know, we got to speak a little bit last night. And you mentioned last night channeling the mandalas that you've drawn over the years.
Hmm.
Do you feel like there's any connection between the UFO phenomenon, the mandalas, and the crop circles?
Well, with the crop circles, absolutely, there's a connection because a lot of my paintings, the designs, have appeared as a crop circle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that the crop circles and my cards are spiritually inspired. There's no doubt about it. It was an energy that came through me that I drew them, I painted them um, while I was channeling. So, and it was energizing. I've never, for the 9 months that I painted the deck of cards, I've never had more energy in my life. Um,
Can you share with the audience too what that experience was like, that 9 months?
well, sure. I taught school and I was a senior, single parent. And so I would get up at, 6 something. I would be at school at 8 o'clock to teach. I would get home at 4. I would eat something and I would paint from 4 in the afternoon to 4 in the morning, so 12 hours. And then I every now and then I would catch maybe a 15 or 20-minute cat nap. I never missed a day of school. I never missed a little league game. I never missed a concert. Um, I had energy to burn, literally. And when you're in that energetic field, you don't need to eat. You need to drink, but you don't need to eat. And I think with people who are channeling, who are drawing energy directly from source, that source energy is what nurtures you and keeps you going. It's not a struggle at all. There have been times when I was doing something and I was not well, and I was able to do whatever it was, whether it was a lecture or whether it was a reading or whatever, and I was able to absolutely do it without any problem at all. Once done, of course, I had to sleep for 2 days or something. It was kind of like my body said, "Wait a minute." you know, we did have an issue here. We put it aside for a while you were doing what you were doing, but your body has to catch up. And
Mhm.
that's what happens. If you are in that energy, you're not using your own vital energy. You're channeling cosmic energy so that you're using a different kind of energy that nourishes your body and your spirit and opens you to the ability to draw from the spirit within, so that it's an amazing process. And then once you close it down, then you're back to being human again.
What does that process look like to open yourself up and channel that energy? What does that process for you personally look like?
Oh, oh, I just click in.
It's that easy.
Yeah. And it is for anyone who has gone through that process. Now, um, I'm not sure. I haven't. I can't remember a time when I wasn't able to click in. Um, I know Jared had that had that experience when he died. Um, and I think he's unusual in that
He's
most
definitely
people.
unusual.
Oh, he's weird. Yeah. Um,
Definitely unusual.
That's
but
why we're
but when
friends,
when
all of you.
when he had that experience, he blew open the channel. So he has access to that channel anytime he feels like it. I think sometimes he forgets and tries to put human his humanness ahead of it and try to take control of it, which is really cute. Um, Sooner or later, he'll learn that you step aside, but I think he's still struggling with it a little bit. And I said to him, "You're not human, and you're not. You have a clear channel open." And I want to absolutely say, to make sure people hear me, not everyone who has a near death experience has that same situation.
So why do you think his is different? Why do you think his and also since he doesn't remember anything because the drugs, I'm sure. How can he access that? Like what is he how can he click in?
Well, I think he's always wide open, and at some point in time, he's going to mellow it, because
Possible.
if you are constantly flowing with that energy, it's hard to exist within humanity,
Mm.
because your thoughts, your philosophies, the direction you want to go is not always what is the norm for humanity, and you
But
have
I
to
don't
you
I'm
have to
sorry.
pull it back. Well, you have to pull it back. Um, People who have near death experiences, the commonality that I see with those is that once they come back, most of them want to serve humanity. There is a wonderful quality about them. They've seen death, they've been there, they know it's okay, and they know where they're going, and they want to help other people. It's not 100%, but I would say it's at least 85% of the people that have near death experiences suddenly understand the love that is out there
Mhm.
and want to share it.
Mhm.
Jared's different. So he's weird.
He's
Ah, Go
The
ahead.
floor is yours, weirdo.
Oh, I just want to say hi. We have Rex, we have Leak Project, Michigan UFO sightings, and who else is listening right now? Nightmare, WK Nightmare. Of course, I don't know how it actually pronounces it, but we have a few people listening and watching on Not Aliens on YouTube, so I thought I'd say hi, and they are in with their comments right now, and it's great to have everybody here. And thank you, Rex, about talking about my hair, and apparently it looks good. So thank you, Rex.
Rex? What about mine? Rex?
Yeah, Rex.
Rex?
It's all
I worked,
about Christy's hair.
I worked really hard on this.
Yeah. What about Barbara? And so yeah,
Beautiful
and
hair.
it's a good deflection. So I'm not human, and it's a weird feeling to have that conversation with Barbara the other day
Hmm.
because Christy was really one of the first people to say, hey, why don't we like lots of people are always they stop at, hey, what did you see on the other side? What was it like? And then, they stop when you're like, well, I can't remember because I was in a coma and they put me on about like 5 drugs and they made me forget like 3 or 4 days of my life prior to this, of the event happening. And she was probably one of the first people to go, let's figure it out. I- And I thought, I hadn't thought of that. And we
I
should.
I read a book years ago called Embraced by the Light.
Hmm.
And have you read that one?
Hmm.
I wish I could remember it. It was an amazing book. And it was about this woman who had had a hysterectomy and she had seven children. She had a hysterectomy. She died. During her operation, and she goes to the other side and she has this experience and she comes back and she describes coming back into her body as it being just like this heaviness, this like heavy wet blanket type of feeling, surrounding her. Like she could feel the weight of her body and she didn't want to come back. And so it just, after reading so many books about NDEs, when I meet people who actually died, it's kind of, well, what did you see? And then if you don't remember, then we need to figure it out. Let's.
Well, you got to understand that as you are now is not your true form.
Mhm.
And so that your true form is etheric in nature. It's a spirit. It's a seed of the infinite, the source. And you have no weight. You have no form. You are pure, immortal spirit. In order to experience life, you have to have an avatar, which is a human body. And that's heavy. And it takes time um, to familiarize yourself with the form that you have taken in other lifetimes, millions and millions of them. You've probably been a green blob someplace. You've probably been, a butterfly or whatever. I think that the hardest thing to grasp is that Earth is not your home planet. You don't have a home planet. Your spirit has a source. It's with the source of all creation. You are a seed of that source sent out to gather and to grow and to, in millions of years from now, break through a dimensional wall and become the source of creation for yet another dimension. But but you're not dying and going home to God. You are on a journey forward to become a source, not a God, a source that will send out seeds and pollinate um, a whole new dimension, and at the same time travel yourself and continue. So when people have near death experiences, it's their consciousness that is giving them the format that they are going to follow because that's all they know. He didn't have a map, and that's what makes him different. If he saw his family and friends, he'd be an NDE, which is a very unique person, And it's a wonderful experience, but you have to understand you have human consciousness to deal with. That's all your frame of reference is. He didn't have the human consciousness, so he was open to the spiritual realms more so than most people.
Hmm.
That
So
makes sense?
it does make sense.
Okay.
It does make sense. So there's not, in your opinion, a final destination. We just
Well,
keep going and going and going and going.
you're immortal. So we're
But
no,
don't we
you
get worn out? Because this life is wearing me out. And
but that's your human talking. That's not the spirit within you.
right.
The
But I'm
spirit.
just wondering, in the next life. So here's a good question for you, and one that rattles my brain often. In this life experience that we're in right now,
Mhm.
I feel like the modern term we describe as wakers and sleepers, right? You've got people that are awake and then you have people that are asleep.
Mhm.
Do you feel like everybody has the capacity to wake up? Like everybody has the capacity for an awakening? Or
I
do you feel like there are some people that have maybe just signed up to be here as to assist us maybe in our evolution?
well, your source, the seed within you is a part of the source of all creation. You have within you, the spirit within you has all the information that that is out there. Now, in order for it to input into our reality, it has to work through our consciousness and our humanity and all that we've been taught since we were born. So there's a lot to work through. I mean, the spirit needs to have a physical existence in order to experience all the things that we experience in a physical form. Um, our brains are the most powerful thing out there. Our brains are incredible. We only use you and I and probably most other people who are in a conscious state. We only use about 6% of what our brain is able to do. There have been people who have broken through that barrier, that portal, whatever, and have been able to utilize the power that we have within us. The Buddha could transform himself from one coast to not one shore to another over a river. Um, there are people that have levitated. There are people that are capable of so much. Every person on this planet has the same potential. It's a matter of, are you going to use the right hemisphere of your brain instead of the left hemisphere of your brain? The left hemisphere is the logical, the organizational. The right is creativity run wild. And so when you get to where you're using the right side of your brain and enabling yourself to do a lot of the things that some people can't do, I channel. It's natural to me, but it's not natural to everybody. So it's a matter of you don't sit on the other side at a celestial bar and fill out an application for what you want to do and create this lifetime. We have free will. So I jokingly said to somebody, at some point, when I get that form to fill out about what I want to do this lifetime, I checked all the boxes and said, let me just do it all at once and get it over with. And there have been times when and looked at the other people and said, I'm not gonna be attached to you because you sucked last lifetime and I don't want to do that again. I mean, I think people have made up stories because humans are curious and we've created stories that make us feel comfortable and that becomes our frame of reference and that limits us and puts us in a box. And as soon as you take away those stories, you have the full potential of the universe to play with.
I think that's a big one. I think I want to unpack that a little bit more because I think that's what people do. We get hooked by our stories of what we've lived, and we live like what we're going to do is the opposite of what our story is, or it's with the story. We're going to keep this part of the story. But if you let go of the stories, then all you have is everything else, which is anything,
Yeah,
which seems obvious, but it's hard for people to do, isn't it?
absolutely. I mean, when you stop and think, you have the dogma of religion that creates one of your first persons. Um, the human condition is a prison in many ways, but what you can learn and gather while you're here is phenomenal, because you have fingers and toes and stuff like that, and you can create, and you can have amazing times. I think one of the hardest things is waiting for things to unfold as they're supposed to, instead of trying to create what you think. And again, think left brain, not a good idea. Um, if I a long time ago, when the cards were published, the publisher took me to the first ABA, and it was in Anaheim. And one of the people I read was a person who owned a bookstore, and she asked if I had ever done a bookstore, and of course I always say yes, if so long as it's not against my moral standards, or against the law. And yeah, oh, of course. And so she booked me in, and I went down and I worked in the bookstore, and it was very successful. And I thought, okay, universe, I got it. I'm supposed to be in bookstores spreading my wisdom. And I made up demonstration portfolios. They cost me like $100 a piece. I had 2 dozen of them. I made contact with bookstores all over the United States. I filled them with pictures and write ups and testimonials and the whole thing. And I, called these bookstores, talked to the owners, asked if they would be interested in perhaps having me come and, make a fortune there. And sent them all out with prepaid return envelopes in case they didn't want the $100 portfolio. You want to guess how many people called me to book me?
Oh boy,
All of them?
that's great,
None of
Kristi.
them. It's either
N-
all of them or none of them.
None of them. None of them. I spent all that money, and it was like the universe saying to me, come
This
on,
isn't it.
it comes to you, you don't go to it. And, over time, I have learned that when it comes to me, I say, sure, absolutely, but I don't go out trying to push myself, my philosophy, my thoughts on anybody else. I put them out there, and if it attracts somebody, fine. If it doesn't, that's okay too. But
But
I think
when you live your life in general, Barbara, is that just in general how you perceive the world and live your life? Is I just don't do. I let it come to me.
absolutely,
Get out of your own way.
if you try to make the call, chances are it's going to be a wrong number.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I thought I belonged at, big conventions. And so I did whole life expos a couple of times. Um, and, that's a 3 or 4 day fiasco in huge um, auditoriums and stuff like that. I took the cards there, I took the Mandelas there, and met a lot of really cool people. I met Elizabeth Clare Prophet, and we shared a bottle of wine after closing one day. And are you familiar with her?
I'm not.
Oh, she was the Purple Flame. She had followers all over the place. She had a group where huge group of people that she had um, mountains where she had tunnels in them that they were going to go when the apocalypse hit, and then of course they were going to come out and rule the world. And at one point, she took them all underground. And so we were sitting on the stairs halfway through the bottle of wine. And I said, can I ask you a question? And she said, sure, shoot. It had been a long day. And I said, um, I know you took them all underground, with the end is here and we're going to rule the world. And I said, so how'd you get them back out again? Did you tell them it was just a test? And she said, oh, the toilet's backed up, on and on and on. And she said, Yeah, I told them it was a test run, and they all passed. And we're talking thousands of people, and
Thousands.
thousands. She had a following. She still does. But she was so cool, and I said, and they had, my gosh, they had ammunition. They had, I mean, they were prepared. People were having their molars pulled out so that if they needed a dentist, it wouldn't be, that hard to take teeth out or whatever. I met somebody that followed her, and it was just amazing. She said, "I think I got a little ahead of us." And I said, "Oh, you didn't get the call, huh?" She said, "Oh, you know that too?" I said, "Yeah, I wait for the call." I said, "So you put the call in?" And she said, "And it was a wrong number."
So then it stuck. So just don't make, I just don't, yeah, we just don't make the call because it's typically the wrong number.
Yeah, and it's hard because every now and then you think, I know exactly what I should be doing. I know exactly how I should get this out there. And the reality is you're using the left side of your brain. You're assuming you know more than what you are, just going from your frame of reference. And it's a small frame of reference. For me, it's 81 years here on the planet, but I don't know what the spirit inside of me needs. And so I wait until it calls to me. And literally, I'm talking calls. I get a phone call or I get something that, I'll look into things, absolutely. But I I wait for it to be given to me instead of my taking it. That will go away eventually. Um, but should have taken it off the hook. Oh,
That's all right,
geez.
Barbara.
That's okay, Barbara.
Oh yeah, they'll stop. So, so it's now that's a call I don't need to answer. But there are there are calls that come from out of the blue. I mean, I stumble upon things. It's synchronicity.
Yeah.
It's oh, oh, for Pete's sakes. Hold on a second.
Well,
Oh,
while she does that, I'll just bring her back on when she comes back. What do you think?
oh my gosh, I love her. She's just amazing. I just want to. I want to have tea with her. I just want to sit and have tea with her.
No, have a Diet Coke with me.
Okay, Diet Coke, whatever, or
But
wine. I'll share a bottle of wine.
I'll do
What,
that too.
whatever your flavor is, we'll
But
do it.
the thing is, when you have that kind of energy, you think, this is special. I should be doing something profound. And what the biggest thing that I have come to realize is what is profound for me as a human is not necessarily profound for me as a spirit. I mean, my purpose here could be to touch somebody by doing a reading for them, or to see them in the grocery store and say something nice to them that changes their direction so that they have a better perception of life.
Hmm.
I don't know spiritually what my purpose is. And everybody who comes to the place where I have a purpose, I don't know what the hell it is, but it's a purpose, it's a drive. And all I can do is keep on keeping on, hoping that whatever I am doing on my pathway is the appropriate thing. If I veer off my pathway, things will stop falling into place for me. And that's how you know if you're on the right track, actually. If things start falling into place for you, if things come to you as opposed to you seeking them. If you seek it, if it's your idea and this is what we do with this energy and this is it's my thing. Don't worry, spirit, I know where I'm going from here. I'll drive for now. I know that I hear the door slam, they go out and play golf or whatever, but they're no longer there guiding me. So I think it's the hardest lesson that I've had to learn. Hardest lesson indeed, because you think from your perception as a human, but your journey is that of a spirit. It's not a human journey, it's a spiritual journey. And the spiritual seeks other things. It's on a higher level than making money. And, if you're doing your spiritual work, you'll always have what you need, not what you want, but you'll have what you need. If you are prevented from doing something, there's a reason. I mean, sometimes it's a challenge to your creativity. We don't, lots of people say, well, I'm so burdened. I have so many things that have come to me in life. And I look at them and say, well, then you have to be a highly evolved spirit or you wouldn't be challenged creatively that much. We're never
Ooh,
given more than we can handle.
yeah.
So
Do-
if you get off the poor me and get into rolling your sleeves up and saying, okay, how can I address the situation without getting arrested? Well, um, and it's amazing if thing we had a thing here at the condominium. We had um, trouble with our sewage pit grinders and stuff like that, and it we were having trouble and we were getting billed, and I'm president of the HOA, and so
Oh, I'm so sorry for you. Gosh,
yeah,
that's
I
a
know.
terrible job.
I I hadn't been here a year before they asked if I would be president and told me, "Oh, there's no problem at all." They lied, and I can't find anybody that'll do it. But what happened was I tried to resolve the problem, and I called everybody I could think of. I did everything, and finally, one of the people went by and said, "Oh, you should call Channel 5 News." And I thought, "Oh, that's ridiculous." And then I thought, "Wait a minute. It's a suggestion." I called Channel 5 News. They came out here. I was on the news, and the problem is being resolved.
Shocker. Do you
So
think?
it sounds it reminds me a little bit of The Alchemist, which is a fiction book. Have you read The Alchemist?
Yeah.
And it's all about just universal omens and following the universe and following those omens and letting go. And even though it's fictional, it resonates. The book
Oh,
resonates.
synchronicity is your spirit's way of getting through to you.
Mm.
And if you recognize those synchronicities, if you write them down, if by writing them down, you anchor them to reality. You anchor them to reality, you create a flow, a funnel through which communication can start. And if you recognize them, even if it's finding a parking place where you didn't think you'd ever find one, or someone calling you on the phone that you just thought about, or opening an envelope and there's a check in it that you'd forgotten that you deserved. I mean, there are so many things that happen that if you start to pay attention to them, you create a flow and they become bigger and bigger and bigger. The biggest synchronicity that's happened to me so far, and I've got years to go, so there may be bigger. Um, I decided to move from Connecticut to Nashville to be near my son and my grandchildren and his wife too. I mean, she's a lovely lady. And my house was for sale for a year and a half. And for a year and a half, I was on MLS every day with a friend of mine. We were looking for condos and, we weren't finding anything. And finally, I got a bid on the house that was accepted. And the condo I'm in now, they changed the price. And so I called my son and said to him, "That's my condo. Go see it." And he did. And he said, "It's very nice. Do you want to fly out and look at it?" I said, "No." And I told him what to offer and told him it was cash. And he said, "No, you're supposed to bargain, Mom." I said, "No, no, you don't understand. Offer them this price, tell them it's cash and final offer." And they accepted it. And he's a lawyer and he, said, "Well, that's not the way you're supposed to do it." I said, "No, no, no, no." And so I moved down here and I wanted to be by water because I've always lived by water. I wanted a fireplace and I needed something to tell me I'd made the right move. So after I moved in, everybody has a little garden space, and I'm talking little. And as I was walking around looking at the garden spaces, I realized behind my condo is um, it's a stream. My son says it's a drainage ditch, but he's wrong. It's a stream. And so I thought,
I
oh,
have a stream.
there we go. There we go. I have my water. And then I looked and I said, my goodness, there's a cemetery here. And it's an old cemetery that goes back to the 1700s. It's so cool. I am
That's so
so
cool.
excited. Only one tombstone I could read, and it was his name was Thomas F. Smiley. And Jeannie, my friend in Virginia, and I have done genealogy work forever. And I gave her the name and the dates, and I said, check it out. And a couple days later, she got back and she said, "Oh, you're not going to believe this. You had better sit down." And she knows me well. And for her to tell me to sit down, it had to be good.
Yeah.
And she said Thomas Smiley had a sister named Hattie. And I thought, good, that's nice. Hattie's second husband was Aaron DeLong.
Stop.
I have kin buried in the backyard.
Synchronicities. That's insane. So that kind of reminds me of a story when when Jared and I were in Belize, Tess Cacciatore went with us. She's a producer, filmmaker, whatever from LA, and she went with us. And next to the place that we were staying was an old cemetery, and there were Civil War soldiers buried in that cemetery. And she read one of the names on the gravestone and ended up figuring out that it was a relative of one of her exes
Oh, wow.
buried in the cemetery in Belize next to this random place that we were staying at in Central America. There's Civil War soldiers buried like here that she was related to one of her, former relationships. Just
That's so cool.
synchronicity, right? It was just really interesting when she saw the name. She just immediately was like, "There's no way," and she started communicating to figure it out, and it was. It
Wow.
was. So, yeah, and I think that's, do you feel that when there are people in your life, uh, let's just say relationships maybe that you're in, and maybe you have one perspective and the other has another perspective about how reality works and how manifestation works and how you I believe that I can create my own reality, that I can reach up into the ether and pull down whatever I want.
Hmm.
And so if you have someone in your life who is the opposite type of perspective and thinker, do you feel like that kind of plays a part in the way your life ebbs and flows? Or do you feel like the universe still works in your favor separate from that person?
Well, first of all, the universe is just cosmic energy,
Right.
and you create your own reality by your perception of it.
Hmm.
And frankly, if I were going to be in a relationship, I would not want to be in a relationship with someone that believed exactly as I did, because then how will I grow?
Hmm.
Um,
Complementary, basically complementary is different than the, identical.
yeah, and
Right.
so, and I have often told people who have said to me, I have to divorce my husband because he's not as spiritual as I am. And my response is always, first of all, it's not too spiritual to judge another person like that. And
Right.
secondly, every person who is a wacko spiritual person needs to have an anchor and someone to hold them back from getting too far out there and joining a cult or whatever. So having someone not to well, to challenge you and to make sure that you believe in what you believe in and you're not just following another person is a good thing.
Right.
um I think that I don't think, well, I don't believe that on a spiritual level, humans can perceive of what the purpose of a lifetime is. I don't think we have that ability. Um, when our spirit leaves our body and is in etheric form again, it will make choices and decisions as to what else is needed and where to go. But that plan, that contract, is not a universal contract. There is not a person out there who is designing our lives. We're the ones that are doing it. And I think that's the biggest difference I have with many of my friends. I have a friend who prays to God and prays to Jesus, and that's fine, and that's what she needs, and that's what she believes in, and that's what gives her the security this lifetime. That's very appropriate for her. That's not how I feel. I don't feel that there's judgment. I feel there's experience, and it's the experience the spirit within me wants to have. But it's not a plan out there cosmically that is being drawn up for the overthrow of the world government or anything like that. That's not the case. Our lessons here have a greater cosmic meaning, and where you want to have that great aha moment and the mountaintop experiences, they do come, but the purpose of your life is directed by the spirit within you, not something out there that was contracted before you entered into this reality. Now, some spirits do reincarnate as groups, some don't. But I think the thing that we have to realize that our brain is one of the strongest tools we have to utilize, and we don't use it. We can create holograms and do. Um,
Mm.
it's not oftentimes when you're seeing something, sometimes it's a shadow of it's a time fold where you're seeing a shadow of a past life or something that is or a past time frame. Um, and it's there's so much going on that for us to grasp it all is beyond our comprehension. So we have to kind of keep it down and follow the lead of the spirit within, and that's letting go of judgment, and that's letting go of control to a certain degree. But synchronicity works so beautifully, and again, you'll know you're on the right path if things are falling into place. If things are not falling into place, you want to check out how heavily you're trying to influence a situation that you're thinking is the way you were meant to go, instead of allowing you to flow into the direction that is most appropriate.
Mm.
So I want to go back to the comment that you made about, maybe in one lifetime we were a green blob and maybe one lifetime we were a butterfly. So there is this debate on consciousness, right? On our dogs conscious, our cats conscious, our insects conscious. Are they aware of themselves as whatever being they are? So is that how you feel? Like maybe we started out, because you did mention at the beginning that maybe we came in as like this big explosion of light and here we are as these beings on this planet. So can you kind of mesh those two together so that I can.
Every living, hear that living part, every living organism has a part of the source of all creation within it. I forget who it was they were talking about. I even forget which book it was, but at one point they said that somebody had spent a whole lifetime as a tree, seeing what it was like to be a tree. Um,
I've read
I
that.
yeah, but as far as humans, we came in as humans. I believe we were we came through a dimension, a dimensional vortex, and that the human race, as we are now, came through that vortex. Um, I don't think Could you have been a cat or a dog? Probably you could have been. You may have chosen to do that. I do believe that they have spirits, but I don't believe that their consciousness now is the same as the consciousness of a human.
Mhm.
It's the consciousness of a cat or a dog or a goldfish.
Mhm.
But when it leaves its body, it becomes an etheric spirit that will go on whatever journey it needs to. So, I don't think there's a matter of evolution or de-evolution. I think there's a matter of where your spirit feels it needs to be. And as far as being a green blob, I think that there are probably dimensions, planets, in which the population has a different form. And in order to be in that form on that planet, you have to go along with whatever is appropriate there. And there may be planets where green blobs are the highest level of whatever there are. I don't know. Does not
There-
appeal to me. But there may be something to be gained by being that. So I don't know. My frame of reference is
Barbara, I got a question for you quick.
sure.
Oh, sorry. What was your frame of reference first?
My frame of reference is I'm in a human body at this point in time. However, I'm fortunate to know that this is only an avatar and that I have been in other forms in other places in other times.
Can you
Well, that
remember
kind of,
those? Sorry, Jared. I'm
no, that's
sorry.
fine.
I know I'm hogging the mic in all of the questions. Do
No, that's
you
fine. Keep
remember?
going.
Do you remember those times? Can you remember your past lives? Any of them?
I guess some of them just glimpses here and there. Some people are able to go into, naming people and things like that. No, I don't. I've not done that. I suppose if that was something that was important to me, I could probably do it. I have caught glimpses here and there of a ballroom in Venice, but and I wasn't serving. I had a dress on and I was dancing, but that's all I do remember.
Hmm.
Mhm. All right, so my question, Barbara, was I have a dialogue, I have it with a few friends, a lot of people actually, they'll have this thing about, this life, the life that they're in. Do you think that there is for all, like you said, you're in an avatar, but how do you lean on the purpose of your current avatar? Is it just random? There's some people that, for various reasons, think, I want to do the next one, or I don't want to be in this one anymore. But do you feel that there's a purpose to every life, or is it
Absolutely. Oh,
just,
absolutely. You're here for a reason. Being in human form is not a mistake. You chose it for a reason.
So then, what about the people who don't wake up? What about the people who get up every day and do the same thing? What about the people that don't think outside the box or don't wonder where they came from or don't think about the actual, just, and I hate to bring religion into it because everybody has their own, their own
Hmm.
belief system, and that's fine, but for those that are just this way, just this one way, and the blinders just can't come off, and they
Hmm.
can't see the world around them, and they can't perceive things outside of their own experience and programming, and they can't open themselves up to other ideas and realities and perceptions. Like, what about those people who were just so stuck in the robotics of getting up, and going to work and making money and paying the bills, and then this is what we do. We're born, we go to school, we get a half-ass education with full of false history,
Yeah.
and and then we go to college, or we go to trade school, or we go straight into the workforce, and then we work until we retire, and then we die.
Uh-huh.
What about
yeah,
those people who don't think about?
That's a great question. And the best answer is you can't recognize something unless you have been it. So you are familiar with that situation because in a past life that's been you.
Oh, I'm so
Wow.
glad it's not me in this one.
No,
I've been
but
called a lot of things, woo woo, crazy. I've even been called a witch. Uh,
sure.
but
No, no,
I,
the reality of our consciousness is it's sort of like you know what chocolate ice cream tastes like.
Mhm.
You don't know what um, beetleberry ice cream tastes like. You have no concept of it.
Mhm.
Your recognition is of familiarity. You're horrified by um, the concentration camps of World War II, almost to the point of tears.
Right.
The only reason you realize that is because you have been in situations similar and you recognize the horror. It's a memory. It's
That's
a
deep.
it, it-
That's deep.
you've been a murderer, you've been a whore, you've been a saint. You've done a lot of things that you are upset by or frustrated by only because you've been there yourself.
And it's still locked in my DNA somewhere.
It's in your memory, and you
Mhm.
understand how much they're missing, and you want to shake them and wake them up. But the reality is, that's not your job. Your job is your life and your journey. Period.
That's tough.
Sorry.
Well,
That's a
it
big
gives you a
smack
lot
in the.
of
It's just a smack in the face. Like, quit trying to wake people up. They can't do it.
It's not your job.
You're right.
Their
And I think
spirit
that's probably the hardest thing that I've had to realize waking up.
Well, their spirit has its journey. Their spirit is as immortal as yours. Their spirit has them here in this form for a reason. And it's not yours to interfere because you know what happens if you interfere? If you see somebody and I can help you, I can move you forward, I can give you a better life. If you do that, it means that they have to come back and do it again harder.
because they got help, because they got support, because they didn't do it themselves, or
Yeah, have to do it themselves.
Oh
If you
no.
take away from them the experience and the wisdom gathered by surviving that,
yeah,
they will come back and do it all again. I mean, it doesn't mean if somebody's stepping out in front of a truck, you don't pull them back. I mean, but the reality is it's not your job.
right.
Who the heck are you to tell somebody how they should live?
You're exactly right. Because I don't like being told how to live.
No.
You don't like to be told anything.
I don't like to be told how to live. And I am recently stepping out into a new experience with myself.
Mhm.
And, navigating that on my own it's been ups and downs. But what you're saying about moving out of our own way is something that I have felt for, I think my awakening started happening around 2015, and then it kind of dulled a little bit. I got sucked back into the tornado of life.
Yeah.
And then I was able to kind of get back to it in 2023 with a massive ayahuasca journey, and which I don't recommend for everybody.
No, that's not for the faint of heart.
It's
No, no.
not. No, 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 no. Um, but it worked for me. And just like you were describing, when the spirit calls, you can't deny it. It's
Yep.
just, there's just no, it's like, I have to do this. It's just a magnet. And that's what it felt like when I was being called to Ecuador for that experience. It just felt like this calling that my spirit was just dragging me down there. I couldn't get down there fast enough.
But sometimes people will say, "Oh, you have to do this," and you do it, and you think, Why? And you get caught up in that, and it's like it
Mhm.
doesn't. If it's right for me, fine.
Right.
I'll
So
give it
it
a
was
shot.
right for me. It was I have experienced close personal people that it was not right for. But it was right for me. But I did experience someone who did go and have that ayahuasca journey and then come back and they just went back to sleep, and it blew my mind, and
Yeah,
I could not wrap my mind around how you can experience yourself and see yourself in that way, and then you come back and you integrate a little bit, but then you just go right back to sleep. And so that's why I asked that question: do you feel like everybody has the capacity or is meant to wake up or have an awakening and expand that consciousness in this lifetime? Because I've watched somebody have the experience and go right back to sleep, and they're
yeah.
completely unaware of themselves, like completely unaware that
But
they
it
went back to
wasn't.
sleep.
But it wasn't appropriate for them.
That's it. That's it. And
And
so
so,
then what's the
and
point?
who are you to judge whether it was appropriate or not? You don't know when
Right.
they went back to sleep whether it could have been their interior spirit saying, "We've already done this before. Let's just have a nap and move on."
That's what I'm asking. Like maybe some people who aren't, we're looking at like they're not waking up in this lifetime, aren't meant to. Maybe this lifetime they just said, I'm taking a break.
Okay, so who are you to judge that they're not awake? They could
So
very they could be awake and feel sorry for you because you haven't gotten to where they are yet. When somebody asks me what level of awareness I have, and they want to know where they are, spiritually speaking,
mhm,
and I usually say to them, look, at the moment of death, you're going to experience an elevator. Get in it and
mhm,
look up real fast to see what level you're on, and hope it's not the basement. Um,
right.
and so it's kind of like I tell people that as far as evolution goes, as far as spiritual awareness, the whole thing, I assume always that I possibly have the same or maybe a little higher awareness than a dandelion, because I don't know where I am evolutionary wise, because I can only speak to human existence this lifetime. Now the
But
spirit,
do you not feel like the way that your awareness is also a reflection of how you treat others? Your
absolutely.
awareness of yourself and your own consciousness is a reflection of how you treat others. And so the question that you asked, like, who am I to judge, or how do I know what level someone is at in comparison to myself? That's sort of my baseline. And not that I'm judging in any way, it's just an awareness of how people treat other people. And so I feel like the more conscious and expanded and aware you are, the better you treat people. Just like
Well,
you said, when you experience it, you come back full of love. When you understand the human condition, you can't help but love it.
right. But the thing is, I have learned something from every person I've ever touched. There is a master teacher. There is a see. The thing is, inside of everybody, from the guy who stands in the middle of the street trying to get food, to the hairdresser, to the butcher, to whatever, everybody has a master spirit inside of them that is guiding their journey. Who am I to judge anyone? Because there is wisdom and unbelievable magical stuff to be shared. It doesn't matter what their place in life is, their spirit is gathering what it needs this lifetime. And I am sure that I have been a beggar at times. I am sure I have been, any number of stations in life and occupations from, we've had millions of lifetimes. You haven't done it all because you're still here repeating and doing, new lifetimes over and over again. But we can't judge. I look upon every person as a master and wonder what it is they can share and I can gather from my experience with them. Some people are just absolute downright nasty people. I mean, they are. And for me, I limit my exposure as much as I can.
That's what you do. You limit.
Yeah, you
So
choose. Go
there's
ahead.
something to learn then from everyone, but at the same time, there are people that aren't. I mean, you don't want to just say toxic, but there is also people that can basically vampire away your where you're
Energy.
at.
Well, there are call them energy vampires. Um,
Yes.
but there but they're experiencing that this lifetime for a reason, and you recognize it because you've been there. So don't judge something that you've been.
Mm,
I think the hardest part is when you recognize that that energy vampire is somebody that's close to you, and then you have to navigate how to have a relationship with that person, knowing the way that they are. I think that
Exactly.
that's difficult whenever you know that they are an energy vampire and you are protective of your own energy, and they
That's true.
do negatively affect your experience in
But
life,
but
but
they're
you're kind of
there. But they're there to teach you to grow above and beyond that. They're a lesson for you. And once you are able to look at them with love and thank them for the gift of what they've taught you, and on a deep level, then to be honest with you, they kind of drift away. I had a neighbor in Connecticut who hated the people that owned the house before I did, and so I when I bought the house, I bought into the hate, and she was she was unbelievable, nasty and vicious and all sorts of stuff. And um, in my past, I've been known to have a very very sharp tongue. And at first, when she started in on me over a couple of years, in a way, it was a challenge, and I finally will pull myself back and say, "I can top that. I really don't think I wanna play with it." And, I don't wanna waste my good stuff on someone who is obviously, still struggling. And at one point, she was throwing trash onto my it was in the woods, but she was doing stuff she shouldn't do. And I asked her to not do it, and she, said she was gonna do it. What was I gonna do? And I looked at her and I said, your garden is gorgeous this year, and I really admire some of the stuff you've done." And she came out with something nastier, and I said, "And I really, if there's any way when fall gets here that I can take cuts from some of it, I'd like to preserve some of the beauty that you've created because you have a magical touch with plants." And she just sputtered and turned and walked away. And and what I heard was, I said in my head, "Oh, this is what the higher ground feels like." And, and spirit said, because I was getting too cocky,
Mhm.
"No, what you realized was she was giving you a mirror. If you engage it, you become it."
exactly.
And it was like, "Oh my gosh."
Exactly.
I just got
Christy?
chill bumps. Ah,
Exactly.
stay
Yeah,
away from the
exactly.
mirrors.
Don't
I
engage, Christy.
no,
Don't engage with the mirrors.
Don't engage with the mirrors.
Nope.
no,
Won't
but
engage.
recognize what is but it was a gift she gave you and
You're
she
right.
gave me. She was giving me a gift, and I was, ready to go to battle with her. And then I thought, "Nah, I'm better than that." And so it's you're always growing, but you have to understand that it's your spirit that's learning, and you're along for the ride. Your consciousness is along for the ride. If you try to intervene and manipulate, then you slow your own progress down.
Mm.
Okay, I'm done intervening.
Bullshit.
I'm,
Did I say
I'm
that?
gonna,
Was that my
this
inside
is
voice?
what's gonna happen. So from now on, when I start to intervene, Jared's gonna say, Kristi, you need to call Barb. And I'm gonna
Ah,
say yes. I'm gonna give
Well, I
Barb a
could just,
call. I'm stepping all over myself.
you know what? There's that, Barb. I can tell her to call you, and I can also just ask her if she's talking to the mirror.
the reality is we all have different lessons and we all have different journeys, and sometimes our journeys are parallel. And that's a fun time. That's an exciting time. That's a time when there's a good back and forth of challenging and learning and being creative and stuff like that. But our spirits' journeys are are eons old, and you're together for a reason, and whatever comes. But you just have to be careful that you don't give up your dreams for another person's, and you don't have the same dream.
And you said that. That was quoted. You said that in your, I think it was your deck.
Yeah.
You said to be careful to not chase someone else's dreams or throw off the balance, I think is what you said. I can't quote it. You probably can, but you said don't throw off the balance of life by chasing someone else's dreams
Yeah.
with them. You
And
have to take
you're
your
not
own.
helping them. You're
Right.
slowing them down.
Mm-hmm.
Barbara, can I ask you about your husband? Can I ask you what your
Which one? There were three.
well, which one was your favorite?
We'll start there. The favorite, was it Patrick?
No.
Oh,
Uh, my favorite. I had a 12-year relationship with a man, on and off for 12 years. He was my favorite. Um, Patrick was Patrick was a unique man. He was intelligent. He had a photographic memory. You can't argue with someone with a photographic memory. It's just too frustrating. Um,
Well, they
but
remember.
a brilliant man, and I loved him to pieces. But he had his own issues that he was working on, and at one point, when he was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, um, he said, he was finished. He was done with his work, and he died. He was diagnosed in August, and he died in October.
Oh wow,
wow. Wow.
that sucks. I was
Wow.
gonna the reason I asked you is I was gonna ask you about your experience because you dived into a lot of things, it sounds like, with your partners, and so I was curious how that worked, how you thought of in reference to your dreams or your goals, and how that played out in your partnerships that you've chosen.
Well, my first husband was right out of college, and I had my son, and 5 years was about tops, and I moved on because it wasn't working, and because I felt like I can't continue to do this because there's so much more for me to do, and I'm stuck.
What did
And
you how did you feel stuck? Like in what ways did you, if you don't mind me asking, that's a very personal question, but
um,
if you don't mind sharing, in what ways did you feel stuck in that relationship?
his vision of the future and mine were very different,
Mm.
and he had issues that I had not known. And so I took my son and I moved back home with my mother. And then I married a ship captain who
Oh
was,
boy.
yeah, he was home for 6 months and he was away for 6 months. And, um, he was a master of the 1,000-foot container ships that are out there. And for 2 summers, we actually lived on a 140-foot square-masted ship down at Atlantic City. We took the public out for sales and things like that.
Oh, nice.
Um, yeah, and then, but he was also an alcoholic, and so that kind of spoiled things.
You're
And
saying the ship captain was an alcoholic?
only when he was on dry land.
All
Okay,
right.
that's important. That's an important detail.
Yeah, only on dry land. And then my last husband was Patrick, and
Mhm.
he and I worked together, and we were a wonderful team, and we did Secrets of the Stones, which is the documentary that's on the website. And we, I think, made a difference in people's awareness of the secrets of the stones and the stone chambers and walls that are out there. Had he lived, we had the possibility of turning it into a major documentary, but he passed away. And so it's out there and it's still getting tons and tons of people watching it. So, I'm very, very proud of the work that we did there. And he wrote 3 books, and the books are still out there and doing quite well. So, and he said, I'm done. And he said, I don't want to, I don't have any more to do.
Hmm.
And Eric
He was
Von
at peace.
Yeah, I would say so. I know Eric Von Donigan, and he knew each other. He knew a lot of people, and he was also he did podcasting as well. So when he and I got together, of course, I got to know a lot of men podcasters who were very sweet. When he passed away, they all asked me if I was able to keep the house, and it was like, I had the house before I married him, so yeah, I'm keeping it. But they were all very supportive, and so I got a wonderful support system of podcasters,
That's
and
amazing.
and still, I get people, asking me about Patrick and his work, and his the section on UFOs and giants on my websites. All came from Patrick's websites. They were the only thing that were not in his 3 books. So I preserved them there. And his website had to go down. So there we are. And I'm done, I'm pretty sure, with relationships. At least I think I am. I don't say never to anything anymore, because as soon as I say never, I know it's going to happen. So I never say never.
I'm 41. You're 81.
Yeah.
I think I'm done with relationships.
No, don't do that, because the last time I said that, I can remember exactly where I was. I was in my garden in Connecticut, and I looked around, and I had a huge garden, and it was beautiful. And I said, you know what, universe, if this is it for the rest of my life, I am at peace and content. And I heard on the other side, we better send something her way. She's too complacent. And I met Patrick on my radio show about a month later, and I met him in November, and the following June, I flew to San Francisco, and he picked me up at the airport with his 3 cats and everything he owned in his van. And our first date was driving for 6 days in his van across country with 3 cats.
Well, that cats would be better than kids, in my opinion.
Well, we drugged them, so they were fine. You can't drug kids.
Oh,
Well, you can, but
you can.
It's frowned upon.
It is frowned upon. I'm not going to say I've ever Benadrylled my kids on long rides. I've never done that. Never done
that. I hear some people do, though.
That's why mine love Dramamine on car rides. Let's just sleep through it. We'll just sleep through it.
But it I every time I turn around, something magical happens, and it's because I'm open, but hopefully not manipulative. So
you mentioned yesterday that channeling was the easiest thing to do.
Absolutely.
How?
Well, you have to believe in it. And if once you believe that you have the capability of doing it, it's a matter of just switching gears and letting a spiritual philosophy flow through you. I think the thing that most people don't understand, and this is my opinion only, so it's Barbara's opinion on channeling. If someone says they're channeling and they're telling you what to do, they are not channeling. That's their ego pretending to be a channel. If you go to someone who is a channeler and you ask a question and you get a spiritual philosophy to apply to whatever it is you're going through, and the choice is yours as to whether to utilize it or apply it or whatever, then you're with a channel. And it's that easy, and the ego sneaks in all the time trying to manipulate something that is respected. And that's what egos do. You know, they want to be noticed, and so they'll say, "Oh, star child, oh, child of the universe, your journey here is to create a new philosophy for humanity to rise above the chaos that's already in the world, and to help the world understand the love that is meant to be shared," and da 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 da. And that's an ego talking to you. It's not a spirit. It's not true, and it's not a spirit you're talking to. It's the spirit within. So you're channeling cosmic energy. You're not channeling a spirit, you're channeling an energy. And it comes through you, through your spirit that has traveled through time and shares the wisdom it's gathered.
So the energy travels through the spirit, which travels through our avatars.
Yeah.
So we just have to move out of our own way
Yeah,
and
good
let the
luck.
cosmic energy flow. Yeah, and it's not worked out great for me so far. I'm still working on it.
Well,
So,
it's
Still working on it.
you know,
so Barbara, when you get out of your own way, you don't really, well, when you get out of your own way, what happens?
well, it's really it's the coolest high there is. I when I was painting the cards, I was channeling them, and a friend of my son's who I adored, who was also selling drugs, would come by at 2 or 3 in the morning, and he'd knock on my window, and I'd go out my window, and we'd sit by my garden, and we'd talk about the highs, about what my high was like spiritually, what his high was like on the drugs. And, he said, "It sounds like your high is healthier." And I said, "It's cheaper too." You know, but he didn't want to put the work into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's when you get out of your own way, magic happens in your life, right, left, up and down. Um, our HOA got a bill for $50,000, which for our issues with our septic system. And I sat there and I looked at it and I just laughed. And, somebody said to me, "How can you laugh? We're going to have to split this and pay it." I said, "No, we're not going to have to pay it." And she said, "What do you mean we're not going to have to pay it?" I said, "We are not going to have to pay this. I know we're not going to have to pay it. So let's just sit back and wait and see." And today I got a call that the company that sent the bill, um, is working on, um, getting from their insurance company the money so that we won't have to pay a thing. I have not lost a minute of sleep because of a $50,000 bill sitting on my table.
So I have a similar story, but on a smaller scale. When I was with my ex and we were really plugged into our church, we were doing mission work.
Mhm.
And we had a missionary couple come in and present. And the whole time they're presenting, I just have this we're going feeling, like just this knowing. And I'd never been on a mission trip before. The only time I'd left the country at this point was like to go to Cancun or something for vacation. I'd never done anything like this before. But this couple came into the church and they gave their presentation, and it was just, I was completely enthralled in everything that they said. And I had this knowing that we were going to go.
Mhm.
And we were younger. We had 3 kids at the time, and my ex was. We get in the car after the service, and I said, "So, what did you always ask him? So, or used to ask him, what did you think about the service?" And he said, "It was good. Yeah, it was cool." And I just looked at him and I said, "We're gonna go. We're gonna go to Honduras." And he, of course, looks at me, and I was a stay-at-home mom at the time, single income, 3 kids. And he said, we can't afford that. Like, we can't afford it. And I said, yeah, I know, but we're going. I don't know how we're going, but I know what I heard during that service, and I know what I feel, and I know what I know, and we're going. And shortly, a couple months before we left for the trip, the church ended up handing us a check to pay for the whole trip, which was amazing. And I remember just looking at him and getting in the car afterwards, and I didn't want to say, like, I told you so, but I had that feeling of, I knew it. Like, I could feel it. I knew it. I knew that's where we were supposed to be. It was part of that journey and that part of my life. And we were supposed to do that. And I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I leaned into it, believed it was going to happen, and it happened. And so it was just another example of, just like you said, I'm not going to worry about the $50,000 check.
Well, I think part of it is lots of people will say they just believe,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't.
Right.
And, it's like, remind yourself, oh, yeah, I'm believing that. Yeah, I believe it right now. I believe it. But, 5 minutes from now, maybe not. But
Mm-hmm.
when you totally, absolutely commit yourself to a belief,
Yes,
it happens.
it happens. I completely 100% agree with that. When you can feel it in your core and you know it in your bones, and it's like a knowing.
Hmm.
It's so easy to move out of your own way and just step into the ebb and flow of the universe and move with it,
Yeah.
and not really care. We'll just
Yeah.
see what happens. We'll just see.
Yeah. But, and even knowing that, it's so hard to not try to manipulate.
Right.
And that's where, me and my demonstration notebooks and things like that, I keep being reminded of that, because every now and then it's like, oh, I'm so sick of waiting. And the thing is, a couple of things are really important. Creativity is very important. And and if you aren't being creative in your life, you can be guaranteed that your life will slow down and stop. You won't die, but you won't go anywhere either. Without creativity is the key to opening yourself up to the spirit within.
Mm-hmm.
It's the secret. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to paint the Mona Lisa, you don't have to do the Sistine Chapel, you don't have to write a bestseller. It's a matter of being creative and taking joy from the creation. I had a wonderful time doing the cards. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Um, I have lots of creative projects that I play with all the time. There's always something going on that's creative. And the secret is, if you sell it, if you get money for your creative project, it's double dipping. It doesn't count. So it's creation for the joy of creation, not for money.
Okay.
So whether it's creating a garden, whether it's drawing something, whether it's doing a jigsaw puzzle, it's something that is creative that you're not being compensated for in any other way. And
That's just our own.
if you take joy from it, and it has to be, somebody said to me once, I've been creative all week. I've been doing this and I've been doing that, and I'm not seeing any change in my life. And I said, you look tired. Yeah, I'm sick of this creative stuff. I said, well, you're not going to get anything from it then.
Mm-hmm.
If you lose track of time doing something that's creative, and it doesn't have to be perfect or beautiful in anybody's eyes but your own. Um, I I I love singing. I do not have a singing voice. My sister has the singing voice. I have the talking voice. Um, but I love to sing, and I found that the church choir has to take you. Doesn't matter if you have a voice or not. They have to take you. And so I joined the church choir, and they would always put me next to someone who had a really loud voice to kind of drown me out. Um, the church choir at one time was invited down to a large church in New York City to do the Hallelujah chorus with the adult choir there. And we were bussed in and we walked through the front doors and huge, like a cathedral. We walked all the way down to the nave, and the adult choir was there, and we did a rehearsal. And as the organ started, it was bouncing off the walls. It was creating an energy that was phenomenal. And as we started to sing, we were all lifted up. I swear to you, we were lifted up, and we soared with an angelic choir that was phenomenal. And when we were all done, we all had tears in our eyes. We were all crying, and the adult choir was crying, and the director was crying, and nobody said anything. And we went and had dinner, and then we did the service, and people came up to the choir director and said, that was really quite beautiful. And he said, that was beautiful. You should have heard rehearsal. It was magical. And I was a member of that choir singing totally off key, I'm sure, but boy, they carried me with their voices, and it was creative. And was I even good? No, not at all. But I had a great time. And so it's a matter of, you don't have to be good. You don't have to be a master. You have to just take joy from what you're doing creatively.
Just feel the joy.
And magic happens. It truly happens. I mean, it's not always a mountaintop experience like that. That happened once in my life, as far as being a member of a group that just absolutely was lifted, totally lifted. But those experiences will happen in your life, and keep a record of them. Keep a journal. Keep a journal of your synchronicity stuff. It improves your life tremendously. And if you can get out of your own way, magic will happen in your life. But don't try to make magic. Let magic happen.
Barbara, this has been great. I feel like I'm like a sponge, just absorbing all of the knowledge and information, and I can't wait to just implement.
Well, try not to make too much happen.
Yeah, you're right. I'm not. You're right. I can't wait to just go to sleep and just be lazy and let things happen. No, I know I'll walk in the direction and things will follow. I know.
Well,
But
do something, do stuff creative, because it feels like you're not really doing anything that is creative and not for profit.
so I used to do a lot of creative things in the last 6 weeks. Actually, I have some creativity hanging on the wall right here in front of me that I worked on. But the last 6 weeks has been a little challenging. But so my creative flow usually comes in the form of sun catchers.
Mm-hmm.
I like making sun catchers and just different decorations and things. I haven't got back in that yet. It's been the life. I got kind of swept up in the tornado, and so I'm currently pulling myself back out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have not sat down to start working on my sun catchers again yet, but
Well,
I will soon.
a great form of meditation is a jigsaw puzzle.
I actually have a puzzle table in the middle of my living room, and you can open all the drawers and pull out all the puzzle pieces and put it
Actually,
together.
I think jigsaw puzzles are not given credit for the fact that you create the border, and then
Mhm.
you fill in the hole, and that's what you're doing with your life. You're putting the pieces together, creating a whole, so that as you do a jigsaw puzzle, even though you're looking for pieces of the sky or a tree or whatever, your focus is so not on anything else that spirit has a chance to work through you.
I love that you said that. When my oldest daughter was in school and my middle one was at home, she was about 3. We used to do puzzles together in the floor all the time, just
Hmm.
me and her. And I would always be amazed at her ability to put complex puzzles together at 3 years old. I was amazed, but it was one of our she probably doesn't even remember doing it, but it was one of my favorite things to do during the day after nap
Mm-hmm.
time or right before nap time. We would have lunch and then we would do a puzzle and then she would go to sleep, or we would wake up and we would do a puzzle. But watching her brain work, watching her brain put the pieces together, it 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 was fascinating.
Oh, I
It was
imagine, yeah.
fascinating. Yeah. So I agree with puzzle making and creativity for sure. Jared, I've hogged the mic. I'm sorry.
Well, first
I
I think
told
everyone,
you this was going to happen. Barbara, I warned him. I
I, I
did.
I think he's
I,
gotten a couple of good naps in.
I've warned him. I warned him before it started. I said, I'm probably going to monopolize this one.
no,
I,
she's not sorry. It's all right.
I'm not. I'm not.
You know what? I think there's a lot of things that she's had to say that I would have, whatever I don't need to talk all the time, and she's got, I think we nailed all the questions as far as what we could in the time that we've had you. And the reality is that, um, no, there's a reason we podcast together, and the fact is that it's pretty easy when she's asking the questions I would ask. So don't
It
really need to
works.
say anything.
It's a cohesive partnership. We're figuring it out. It's a
Yeah,
cohesive partnership.
Well,
yep.
that's good.
It's it's easy. But yeah, no, the reality is that Barbara, what you and I have done this like, well, on air we've done this 3 times, but now 4 from last night with Mark. But you and I have talked before, and I was just really excited to have you meet Kristi anyway, and be able to do exactly this because there's a lot of new stuff that we do together. Like Kristi and I've been in the jungle together, and we've done a whole bunch of we've done the list of stuff we've done that is, that's great that we've had all these adventures so far. But this has been a great night because it's just uh, your knowledge base and everything is so vast, and there's just so much for Christie's got um, um, madness behind the methods to work out here. So, you've been very entertained. You've entertained everything, and this has been great. I've been observing.
I'm still working it out though. There's still madness. I'm still working out the madness.
She's not done yet, but feel
Not
Well,
done
free.
yet.
there's a reason for it. Madness sometimes allows you to see potential.
Mhm.
So, having weird thoughts and going in new directions is a very exciting thing to do. I think if I know when Patrick was on Coast to Coast, no, when Patrick was on, wasn't Coast to Coast, it was Ancient Aliens when they filmed him for Ancient Aliens a month before he died. I remember him saying, I'm done. There's no more that I have to say or do. My work speaks for itself. And I did question him, and he was it wasn't a sad thing that he was saying. He was just acknowledging that he really had no other things that he wanted to get involved in, and it was like his spirit was saying, I'm done. I need to get going and go somewhere else and do other things. And it wasn't a sadness until he actually did die. That was sad. But I really know that his journey on Earth at that point in time was done, and he was firmly convinced of it. And he wasn't sad. He was ready to go because he has had other things that he had to get involved in.
Yeah. I remember when I was in Ecuador, one of the people in the kitchen, he said to me, I asked the question, when does this ever stop? Like, when does the seeking end? I don't, how do you not seek? How do you not, I haven't, it's been hard for me to understand when the majority of the people in my life are not seekers, and the majority of the people that I'm surrounded by just do the thing. They get up every day, they go, they do their thing, they do the same thing every day, and they don't ask the bigger questions like, where did we come from? How does this make sense? Like, how does this does it fit together? And And so being that sort of outsider, I feel like, and then having the experience in Ecuador and speaking on that to this person in the kitchen, and his response was like, at some point you just decide, I'll absorb what I absorb when it's in front of me or when I'm questioning something. Otherwise, I'm just living my life in spirit, basically.
Yeah.
And I was really impressed by that answer, just because it's been this obsessive rabbit hole for me for the last decade of just trying to seek and solve and answer and put the puzzle pieces together and figure out how to connect how my consciousness operates within this physical universe to the actual physical universe and all of the ancient discoveries and the things that, you know, Jared and our in our team are out in the field doing, like connecting all of the, I know there's a connection, you know, like with the UFO phenomenon from centuries ago to date. You know, now it's a big thing. They're everywhere. And they're coming up out of the oceans. And Patrick stated that in his, you know, there were several examples that Patrick stated in the book
Sure.
of UFOs coming up in and out of the ocean before there were planes.
Well, I think too, I don't think we even have a good grasp on what happened pre-Diluvian, the cultures that were here, and I know in South America there are, I can't remember exactly where they are, but there was one of the um, pyramids there that when they got into the inside of it and they dug way down, there was mercury all over the place. The first emperor, the last emperor, in his tomb that has not been opened yet, but in his tomb it is said that there was a map of all that he surveyed, and there were rivers there and oceans that were pure mercury. And you have to stop and think, how did they find mercury, because it's a combination of stuff. And you know, it's an amazing amalgam, and yet they had figured out how to make mercury into its state where it flowed, literally. And then you take it back even further, and you wonder, okay, millions of years ago, there were cultures here, there were civilizations here. Mass extinction has happened at least 5 times that they've been able to decipher. And you know, is it going to happen again? And will humanity, will the human physicality survive it? I don't know if that will happen, but I do know that the spirit will. And
And I think that if that's the way you believe, that you just don't have anything to worry about, because death doesn't, I don't fear it, because I feel the same way you do. If there's another mass extinction, it might hurt for a minute, you know. I
I
have a
y-
high pain tolerance, but we'll move on to somewhere else
but
and do the next thing.
your body has the tolerance. Your spirit won't feel the pain.
You're right.
So it's I think that what has always been a curiosity for me is, okay, what was before all of this? You know,
Hmm.
they have all of this wonderful history, and the pyramids, and oh, Punka. I mean, for heaven's sakes, you know, were those weird shaped blocks that are so precise, were they carved or were they poured? Are they, you know, a liquid stone that came out of a form? Or, you know, just how were these things created? They could have been stamped. They could have been in, you know, one of those things we have now with the computer that it'll make an exact replica or something. You know, you just stick it in and you have a replica coming
Like
out.
a 3D model.
Yeah, I mean, their culture and their abilities to live within whatever the reality was at that time frame. At one point in time, the Sahara Desert was closer to, you know, a tropical zone. according to Philip Lindsay in his book, there was a convocation of spiritual entities, wisdom keepers, if you will, that visited the planet every time humanity decided to rebirth itself. And what I have found fascinating is that at that point in time, their temples, their places of worship, their places where their libraries was where the Sahara is now. And according to Philip Lindsay, there is a convocation that is expected sometime in 2025 that is a gathering of the spirit keepers that will be in the Sahara area where the remnants of all that is. They haven't discovered anything in the middle of the Sahara yet, and yet there were civilizations there, especially when it was tropical.
Well, you're right about that. One of the things I wrote about was the massive indicators of flora and fauna even 5,000 years ago, even
Yeah.
4,000 years ago. So all of Upper Africa that is desert was not, it was tropical. So it's known even by by biologists. It was not, did not look like what it does now, even 5,000 years ago.
So you wonder, who were these wisdom keepers? Did they come through portals? Who were they? Where did they come from? And why are they here?
And are they here now? Are they here now? Or
No.
do you don't believe they're here now?
I think that they came. They have come at times when humanity was close to mass extinction, and we're not close to that now.
You don't think so?
No.
So all of the crazy UFO phenomenon that's been happening recently,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that?
90% of them are ours.
Okay. The other 10%?
Are aliens. Not aliens. No, I see. My thing is, I believe we are the aliens. So those that were here before us that we call extraterrestrials are really the original people from the planet. And I believe at the South Pole that there is a gathering place, a port that they are. Admiral Byrd said
1929?
he went into the center of the earth,
Mhm.
and of course they spoke German, and there were swastikas. But again, frame of reference, and the symbol of a swastika is really an ancient American symbol that does not mean Nazis. It's a pattern that people used way back. It doesn't symbolize the horror of World War II.
Right.
So it's I do believe that there are rumblings. I think that we're going to discover some of the edifices that other original people created here. We're not original. I think what we don't understand is that the human race as it is now hasn't left anything that is worthy of surviving for 2,000 years to create confusion for the future. Nothing. Maybe Mount Rushmore, maybe.
Agreed.
But we have the pyramids and the Sphinx, and we have a lot of the temples in South America that are thousands of years old, that have survived a mass extinction. And I don't believe that, I do believe that we have tried to surmise what their culture was, what they worshiped and how they worshiped. But that's only because we had to fill in that blank, so we made something up.
Mhm.
It's like the Bible.
Create
Human
our own narratives.
Yeah, I mean, humanity needed something to be guided by, so they created the Bible and the stories in the Bible to have control over the masses. But I think, when you stop to think about all the papers and everything that were gathered together to make the Bible by Eusebius and Helena and Constantine's proteges, after they got the Bible together, they burned all of the other papers as much as they could. That's why we're finding some papers in jugs and things like that were hidden from view so they couldn't be destroyed. But they made up the stories to make people feel secure in their history. And the reality is our history is so much faster than that. But it's stories that we've told over and over and over and over again, that it's sort of like fiction. I forget, I think it was Hess said that you tell a lie often enough, it becomes the truth. And I think in many ways that's what the Bible is too.
Mm-hmm.
That we're on a spiritual journey, and this is a stopover, but it's only a stepping stone. It's not the end. The end. It's only a stepping stone.
So I wasn't raised in the church, and I found that through a marriage, and uh, there were several things throughout that experience that just did not resonate. Mission work is where it started to really not resonate. There's a difference in mission work and humanitarian work.
Mm-hmm.
And so the mission work didn't resonate. Humanitarian work resonates
Yeah,
because it's just pure love and there's no condition. You know,
absolutely.
I can just love and there's no conditions, and I don't have to make you believe anything. I can just go love you. I can
Exactly.
just love you, and I can help and do the things, and there's no doctrine and there's no dogma and there's no boundaries and there's no conditions.
And
It's
there's
just
no let
pure
me
love.
there's no let me teach you my way. It's the
Yes.
best.
Yes.
I mean, when you
It's
stop and think what we
yes.
did to the Native Americans here, the first
Oh.
people, and in Mexico, what was destroyed by the Spanish is horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a matter of we destroy the past in order to put down our philosophy, which of
Mm-hmm.
course is so much more evolved than other people's, and it's not true. We can learn,
We just
we can learn so much from them.
we create our own narratives, and I feel like that's I
Yeah,
know that, and that there's not I know that there are levels of consciousness. I've obviously not discovered them all, but I know that we're born and there's this level of consciousness of just like you recognize your mom, but you don't recognize your mom as your mom. You don't know that as a baby. And then you enter like the second phase of consciousness, which is programming, where you get programmed by either whatever your parents' belief system is,
yeah.
whether you're Catholic or Baptist, or you don't have a religion, whatever you then there's whatever programming you enter, and then you've got to get past that into the phase of deprogramming, of just acknowledging and realizing that you've been programmed, and that your
Hmm.
belief system isn't actually your own, and that it doesn't resonate with your soul. And then you have to set off on this new journey of figuring out, okay, well, if everything that I was taught in the history books is probably not true, and I've been programmed in all of these ways to feel and think and believe a certain way, who am I? And that's what happened, I think, when I turned 39. When I turned 39, it was just sort of like, okay, I don't know who I am. I don't know what's happening. All this weird stuff is, I don't know. Let's go figure it out. So I found myself on an ayahuasca journey in Ecuador and came back with a much deeper understanding of the human condition.
Hmm.
And at that point, it was easier for me to forgive, to understand, to let go, to understand that my trauma was not just my trauma, but my parents and their parents before them and before them and before them. And that trauma is really just an illusion anyways,
Yeah.
just like fear and death and all of it.
Well, I think, if you're getting to that point where the spiritual journey takes over, it's forget everything you know and
Mm-hmm.
be open to what you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And you become your own teacher. And that's where your truth really lies. That's where what's most important for you to know is already there. It's allowing it to come through. So, there are no schools for this. There is a matter
This
of
this is the school of life.
it's a cool journey, I think. I know that every time I know that I will never know it all, but every now and then I gather a piece and think, "Ooh, that is so cool." And it never ceases to amaze me that it's really funny. I know that my friend Jeannie will say to me, "Well, you said this, and in your predictions, this is what you said, and there it is." And I don't remember that. I mean, I write a lot, and I don't remember it all. I channel it, I put it down, I correct the spelling, most of it. Um, I mean, I sent you the rough copy of my handbook, and burn that one. But
I'm not gonna do that. I'm loving it too much.
no, the inconsistencies and the spelling errors are horrible. They're
Okay, I
still
overlook it.
the book itself. You got the final and that has errors in it too. My tech Greg has found so many that it's embarrassing. And I said, look,
You're,
people are gonna see what they want to see anyhow. So let's just see whatever truth is there. People will gather. It doesn't matter if it's spelled right or not.
that's right. You're right.
Well,
And
it
you're
does.
putting it out there, and I think that's what's important
I
is
think.
just the seed planting, you
Yeah,
know.
no, that handbook to me was, it wasn't the end because I'm not done writing, but the handbook to the deck of cards is a spiritual journey, and you don't even need the deck of cards for it. You can open it to any, you have it as a PDF, so those who have a book can open the book to a page and get a message from that page. So, it's I've had such wonderful response from it that it's like, okay, I did good, and now it has its wings, and I'm done pushing it because it has a life of its own, and it will go where it's supposed to go. And the same with the deck of cards. When I did the deck of cards 33 years ago, uh, 34 now, 35 years, a long time ago, when the publisher bought the deck and the original paintings, um, I said, "This is before its time. It's going to be a sleeper." And he published them for 20 years, and then he stopped.
Uh-oh.
Barbara, you froze up.
Oh,
Oh,
there she
maybe
is.
she's back. Oh, she's
Oh,
back.
Yes.
I'm back. So we republished the deck, and the new deck is out there. And so it's again, it may be before its time, but that's
I don't
okay.
know. I don't know. I don't, just like you said, there aren't any coincidences and everything is as it should be all the time. So I feel like if this is published when it is, like it's time for it to be out. It's time.
Yeah, but it's in its own time, not my
Mhm.
time.
Right.
And if it were my time, it would be a bestseller, but that's not the case.
No, but I just read through the first just root chakra and I was just like, oh my gosh, she's talking to me right now in the first chapter. Like it was that profound. And so I do think that it whether it's time or not, it's time.
Well, one interesting thing about it is that it's in sections because the cards are in sections. There's the physical, and then there's the laws, and then there's the spiritual energies, and the astrologicals, and then a couple of wild cards I threw in. But as I was writing the book, as I drew the cards, originally they were done in order. As I was writing the handbook, I did it in order. And I found that um, the intensity of the spiritual energy changes as you go level to level to level, just for the heck of it. go to one of the last cards, whatever it is. I mean, that would be the threshold card. Don't do that. But the end of the spiritual section, go to the last card in the spiritual level, and read it. You'll see the change in energy in the text. It was phenomenal. I mean, what was said in the physical in the first 11 cards
Mm-hmm.
is so profoundly different from going to the spirituality section.
And the
Read
second 11.
read I guess it's universal spirituality. Read that, and you'll see the change and the shift in the energy, and that blew me away.
I'll do that. So I know we've passed the 2 hour mark. And I have one last question for you,
Sure.
and then we can end this. But what advice do you have for beginning seekers, like people that feel like maybe something's not quite right and I need to dig into something, or people that are just beginning to wake up? What would your advice be?
um I think look for something that attracts you, whether it's an adult ed course, whether it's a book, whether it's I don't recommend group anything, because then you're part of a group energy and it's not all you, and then you're going to take on other people's stuff. There are some great books out there. There's the Urantia book, which is a great book, but it's all channeled. I frankly got lost in it. Um, but it's a great book. There's Science of Mind, which is a good book. Um,
How do you feel about A Course in Miracles?
Another good place to start. Start educating yourself. What draws you? What if it's ancient Egyptian stuff? Look into it. If what you're looking for is more spiritual philosophy, I mean, stay away from Jung and Freud and all of those guys, because they created a foundation, but you want to get into the juicy stuff that's on a personal level. You don't want to hold yourself down to the intellectual stuff to the point where your right brain can't get a word in edgewise. And a long time ago, I wrote an article for the website, and it was, are you a parrot or a prophet? There are people that know chapter and verse and could quote it perfectly, and there are those that can read the same material, take it in, make it a part of themselves, and then expound upon it, adding their own wisdom to it. Be a parrot or a prophet. Don't quote chapter and verse. Take the material in, make it your own, and allow your own philosophy to start to evolve from it. So
That's
don't,
beautiful.
yeah, it really was cool. It was channeled.
That's nice. It's beautiful.
One of the things that we should talk about too, I know you have that last question. If you have any more, great. But also, Barbara, you should tell everybody where we can find you and what you have for sale and what's going on with your new podcast. If you want to tell everybody about that too, that'd be great.
Sure. My website is barbaradelong.com. On the website is a ton of material. The deck of cards is Cosmic Deck of Initiation, and there is on my website, barbaradelong.com, there is a link to the Cosmic Deck site, and that goes into the cards and how to buy the cards, the handbook, and the app that is for the phone.
Which we'll link to that in our bio on the website as well.
And I finally have given in to everybody saying, I mean, I do give readings, so there'll be a link there shortly as to if people are interested in a personal reading from me. I give a reading from the deck of cards, so it is a channeled reading, spiritual, and it's spiritual guidance, but it does get into the nitty gritty, the logical questions you always ask when you go to a reader. But but it gives you insight into the energies that are going to come, hitting you month to month, and how best to deal with them and utilize that skill. And the readings are definitely teaching, but they're also prognostication as well. So barbaradelong.com, and everything is there. Oh, and I Nightlight Radio. How can I forget that? For 15, 16 years now, I've done a podcast once a week. I interview authors and talk about their work, and it's my PhD program. And I am going to do. There's also on the website. There's a prediction for every month and every year. And that is put out there on the website, on the YouTube. There's a YouTube channel, and there's a new show that's going to be called Spiritual Reflections. And as soon as we get it all set up, those will be on the website and YouTube channel as well. A lot going on.
It's
That's
a
pretty
lot
great.
going on. I love that you don't get bored.
No. My goodness, life is too exciting. You can't be bored. If you're bored, you're not doing your job.
I love that you're living what you preach, though, when you said, like, life is, we're here to experience and enjoy it and have fun and use our five senses. We have fingers and toes and ears and nose, and we can do the things.
And
So, why? Let's do it.
And technology is not meant to confound you. It's meant to be used. And when we had to move Nightlight to a different format, I panicked for about a day. And then I realized I hadn't learned anything new technology-wise in 15 years. And maybe the universe was saying, hey, Cookie, you're missing out. Time to move. And so we moved, and we were growing, and I'm learning more and more. So a long time ago, somebody stole my website because they told me things were too difficult for me so that they'd take care of the website, and then they stole it. And and I learned that, it's kind of like I had to get somebody to hack into my own website to get my website back. And then I learned that nothing is too hard to learn.
Right.
And so I'm a lot techier than I ever thought I would be. And it's kind of like when we switched over, and I have the new tech, and he was doing a lot of the work, and I said, look, teach me. I don't want to rely on you to do this. I have other things more important for you to do. And he said, what? I said, no, teach me how to do this and teach me how to do that. And I said, I'm not putting you, I have projects for you to do, and I can do 80% of this stuff. So, I'm not going to take your job away from you, but teach me. And so he's learned that once we get something established, he knows he's going to have to sit down with me and walk me through it enough so that I know how to handle it myself.
I
And
love that. That's your mindset. I love that.
it's also, I'm cheap. I don't want to pay. I don't want to pay somebody to do something that I could do myself. That's
I feel the
ridiculous.
same way. I feel the same way. I feel
There,
the exact
there,
same way. I can do it.
there is a level of technology that I have no desire to get involved in, and I will stay away from that. But the other mundane stuff, teach me how to do it.
Yeah, I can do it. I'll pay somebody else to do the heavy stuff, but no,
Yeah.
I'll do the easy things.
And once you learn something, it's easy. It may not look it, but it does become easy. But I'm hopeful I'll at least get 15 years out of StreamYard and Podbean, and not have to move again.
At least 20. At least 20.
I think if I hit 100, I never.
Every 101, you've got to pass 100.
Okay. I've always said I want to live long enough to outrage my grandchildren.
Yes.
So
we've got to make it to at least 100. You've got 20 more years. We've got 20 more years of podcasting with you.
I would hope so. I certainly enjoy reading the books. I love talking to the authors, and I'm grateful for Mark Eddy too, because at one point I said to him, I am a good interview. You're getting interviews for, all these people, and I said, I am a good interview. And that taught me a lesson too, because before I knew what was happening, he had booked me on 30 different shows. And, I thought, this serves you right, Barbara.
This is what you get for saying I'm a good interview. And
Yeah,
he is amazing. I will say
yeah,
he is amazing at what he does. He's an amazing connector of people and
absolutely.
just a gentle man. And you can feel it. You can
Oh,
feel
yeah,
it.
yeah. He is a gentleman and he's a gentleman. I mean,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
an amazing combination. And
Yes.
he's kind. He's a
So
very
kind.
kind man. So
Yes.
I am grateful to his I think we've been together for a long time now. I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years. So he keeps track. I don't, but a long time.
Barbara, thank you so much for spending all this time with us. And as far as good interviews go, I don't think Kristi's remotely done asking questions, so we should probably have you back if that sounds good.
Absolutely. I'd love that.
All right. Well, you know
Thank
what?
you.
We don't have regular segments yet, but maybe we'll just have you back for a few questions and then we can let you go. But I definitely want to thank you for being on with us. Uh, Kristi, would you like to add anything
Yes,
else before we
Barbara,
let
thank
Barbara
you
go?
so much. I've been looking forward to it all day. I couldn't
Ah,
wait. And I know it's been obvious because I think Jared has maybe asked what 3 questions the whole time. I just kind of monopolized this interview. So I apologize, Jared. I'll let you
well, I
step
would I would
on.
be very interested into your reaction of the book after you get through it.
I'm right. I'm excited about it. I'm really
Well, thank you,
excited.
Barbara. Yeah,
Thank you
thank,
guys. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you so
thanks.
much.
We'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely.
Have a good
All
evening,
right.
Barbara.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
So we have a couple more things to go over, but that was pretty great, right?
Oh my gosh, I could ask her questions all day long. I'm just getting started,
I
honestly.
I I
If I
know you
could just
are.
if I could just sit down and have tea with her and or wine, whatever it is she prefers, I'm ready. I need all the questions. I just want to put her hands in my hands. I feel like let's just touch each other and feel each other's energy and like see what she says. I just want to see what she
Yeah,
says.
yeah. So of all the other things that for everyone that's still watching, we have a couple things coming up for to at
Yep.
least tell you, which would I don't know. You want to start with what we're going to do in Belize
Yeah.
in May?
So we're headed to Belize in May. We leave on the 28th. We come back on the, don't remember.
Fifth,
It'll
fifth.
be on the website. Um, but we are headed to Belize for an expedition, or we could call it an archeo expedition, which is my new
Very,
creative. I know it's good,
very
right? I'm
good,
so clever.
very good, very good.
Archeo expedition. So we're headed to we're headed to Belize at the end of May, and we're going to do cave tours. We're going to see Mayan ruins. We're going to look at an active site that ArcheoX has been working on. There will be daily opportunities for yoga, breath work, and meditation. Uh, Farm to table food. I don't know,
Yeah,
Jared,
a
what do
lot
you
of
have?
that. Oh, well, you pretty much hit on everything from the cave tours, the actual jungle expedition, and I know I've talked to a couple people today about their eyes lit up when I said that we were going to where the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull was found, that it was nearby. They had no idea and they were super excited about that, going to Lumantoon. And I'm looking forward to doing just yeah, the touring part is great. I am not quite sure how to pause on that. Yeah, we're gonna have a great time and the farm table food, but the breath work and the meditation, the yoga stuff, I'm looking forward to doing in some of these places. I'm looking forward to what the energy is gonna be like with everybody, and also the
Well,
good conversations at night.
absolutely. The good conversations, dinner at night, especially when you take a bunch of people just like us, a bunch of outside of the box thinkers and you put them together, there's no telling what you come up with. So it's going to be an exciting time for sure. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, it's going to be on the website. Like you already mentioned, we will have a sign up for people soon. We're going to be on Jimmy Church and a couple other podcasts this week. And Rex from Leak Project will be headed to Belize with us. And there might, there's going to be more info on archaeox.com. And I think that pretty much covers it for now, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
I think so. I think
All
that
right.
wraps it up for the night. Thank you guys for watching.
Yeah, I'm just going to do our goodbye quick. And you good?
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.